Hey everybody, this is Frilioth and welcome to another Minecraft episode on the Alphacraft server. Before we get stuck into today's episode, I just want to say welcome and thank you very much to SgtFully for becoming my latest patron. So I'm going to run down the end of the Patron Pals Hall and put him an armour stand up and stick his name on a sign. So we'll whiz all the way down. Some of these guys still haven't told me what armour they want. You're going to have to tell me, guys, or you're not going to get anything. Your armour stand is going to be stood naked. So we need a sign. We need to get rid of this one. I bought a sign. I forgot I put signs on everything. And it's SgtFully. SgtFully on the 8th of the 1st, 8th January 2019. My first patron of 2019. Thank you very much, Sergeant. I really do appreciate it. Right, you wanted some kind of khaki get-up, green and grey, which actually does look very army-fied, doesn't it? Army-fied. I know that's not a proper word, but I'm going to use it anyway. Looks very army-fied. Love it. So welcome along, Sergeant. So what I'm going to do today is grab a bit of redstone. I was hoping to get a fair bit done today because in the last episode we built the clock, and obviously because it's out, you know what that means, don't you? It means it's dark outside. It means it's dark o'clock. So we'll be sleeping before we go anyway. But I wanted to get, look at that, dark o'clock. I wanted to get a fair bit done on the Iron Alpha today because Jaques-O and Wild are in the process of designing what can only, it's just going to be fantastic because everything they do is pretty phenomenal. You've really got to go and check out Jaques-O and Wild's channel if you haven't already. They are amazing builders. But they're knocking something up like a skin for the outside of the Iron Alpha, and I'm really excited to see it because it's going to be spectacular. But I want to get rid of all of the scaffolding that's around there. Instead of I'm doing it again, I'm stood around talking. I think I've got everything I need already up there. I'm going to meet you over at the Iron Alpha and explain what I'm going to do over there. So I'll see you when I get there. Right, I'm back over at spawn at the station, and that's Avo's new shop up there. It's got loads of gear inside it, but there are some strange noises coming from there. I'm not quite sure what he's selling, but there's a lot of clucking going on up there. And I've come out the wrong door. And I don't know where you are, mate. Luke. You should have come and fetched your present by now. So if it's still there the next time I come in, I think I'm going to yoink it. So here we are. We're back at the Alpha, and as you can see, I've taken down all of the scaffolding around it, the nether rack that was around it, and it looks. I think it looks fantastic. I've turned it off as well because the chests are full. The chests at the back are full. Oh, I've got to go and have a look at this. I've got my rockets. Yeah, so the chests are full. And I was just wasting it. And obviously I had to turn it off anyway because I want to do a bit of work on it. But it looks like Jaques-O and Wild have been over here doing a bit of work on the Alphacraft Central Station. Look at it. Brilliant. Soon enough, we're going to start putting the train tracks in there. The rails in there going off to people's bases. It's going to be fantastic. Right, so trying to explain this and not being able to fly about is going to be quite difficult. At the moment, to reset it, I have to... Oh, I don't have jump boost anymore. I've taken my jump boost off and now I can't jump up things. Dagnabbit. Gonna have to fix that, aren't I? I can't be having any of that. Right, so at the moment, OMG. Have I got any blocks? I don't even have any blocks. This is an absolute catastrophe. It's a catastrophe. It's a catastrophe. Oh my word. I might even cut that bit out. Right, so at the moment, to reset it, I have to, I've got to move my mic actually. I've got to go down there and click a button to get that little villager down there to come up one level. So he's within range of these doors. And then I've got to run over the other side. And do exactly the same over the other side. I've then got to hit the on-off switch, which is, oh no, first, I'm telling you all wrong. First I've got to invalidate all of the doors. So first I invalidate all of the doors by pressing that button just over there. I think it's on the side of that. That closes all of these pistons, which in effect invalidates all of the doors. When the villager is out of range, that will invalidate all of the doors. Do the same on the other side. Then I press the button, raise the villager up by one level. Go over the other side, press the button, raise that villager up by another level. Then flick the lever and this guy starts going round. And that validates the first 32 doors. First 30 doors along here. And then I've got to go to that side, press a button to raise him up to the top level, then go over there, press a button, raise him up to the top level, close all of these doors again, and then set him off on his way. In fairness, it's a laborious thing to do, and it only works at the moment because it's in the spawn chunk, so I've only got to do it the once. If this was anywhere else on the server, and I needed to reset it every time the chunk unloaded, this would be an absolute pain. So what I want to do today is fit it with a single button that will reset it and then restart it again. So initially, I'm going to have to run a line of dust from the center block. I'm probably going to put my button there. It's going to run along here. It's going to run down here. It's going to run down here. And it's going to run into this block here. This is the reset line. And we've got the same on the other side. So that's my first job. I'll grab some stuff and I'll start putting some blocks down. Okay, so I've put the reset line in that goes it goes left and right. It comes up over here, it goes down there, it goes into the reset block, which is this one here, which obviously turns off that torch, and then after a second it turns it back on again, which puts a signal through those repeaters there, which puts a signal of 15 into that block, which resets the subtraction circuit that's there that I talked about a little bit quite a while ago now actually. I'm not going to explain how this works again, but it works. And what that does is I'm not going to tell you what it does, but I'm going to tell you what it does. What it does is every cycle, obviously the signal strength of this particular line is reduced by 1, which enables the doors to be validated. But in doing so, it'll also light up that torch there on the very first cycle. It's going to light up that torch. So I'm going to use that signal to power the dispenser that's down underneath by the doors where my villager is, because my villager is currently out of range. So even if those doors are validated, well, even if the doors could be validated, they won't be, because the villager is out of range. That chap down there, he's currently right at the bottom, which means he's out of range. We need to raise him up by a block so he's within range of these doors in order to validate those doors down the end. And to do that, I'm going to stick a signal using the redstone torch that's at the top to put a pulse down into this block, into that dispenser, which is there, which is going to raise him up one. So I need to run a line of dust all the way along here and link it up to the redstone torch that we've just had a look at. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll have a look at what to do next. So I've got the line in now. It's hooked up to that torch there, which as I said, turns on when the villager comes round on its first cycle. It goes down here. Now we don't have to worry about lighting these up because mobs don't spawn on redstone or on blocks with redstone on it. So even though these are top slabs kind of thing, top slabs are solid blocks and potentially spawnable spaces, nothing should spawn on here because, as I say, the redstone's there. So it comes down here, comes down here, comes down here, and it will then turn on that. And after the first cycle, that villager is going to go up. So now I need to put this mechanism over on the other side. Okay, it became very obvious very quickly that there was no way I was going to be able to do this block by block and give you a rundown every time I'd done something, because that would just take too long. It would have just taken forever. So I've just gone along and done it. So I'll try and talk you through it. For those of you that aren't interested, then you might want to skip ahead a little while, but I'm hoping you don't. I'm hoping you'll find this bit interesting, because I do. I find this absolutely fascinating. All the village mechanics are brilliant, and well done to Mo Yang for creating it. So it's fantastic. So all the villagers are down when the button is pressed, invalidating all of the doors. This is when it's working. That's the reset button. It turns it on as well, so to speak, but we've got to assume that all of the lights are on, all of the doors are valid, all of the villagers have been created, all 60 of them. That guy is at the top, waiting for something to happen. And if you're in a non-spawn chunk, when you come back to the farm again, it will have amalgamated into one massive farm, and that's why you need to reset it. So you press the button, all of these lights go off because of the control block over here, and I've shown you this already this episode, but I'm going to show you again. So that line of dust comes down here, down here, down here, into here, closes all of the sticky pistons. And because all these sticky pistons have now retracted and all the lights are off, it means that this bit of dust over here, this piece here, is no longer powered. Whilst that is extended at the very end of the cycle, this extends, powering this. Ooh, look at that. I need a bit of dust. Need a bit of dust there. I better go and do that now. It's a good job I was talking you through this. Otherwise it'd have been tears. Oh, I was worried to death then. Thought I'd died. Right, so when all of the doors are validated and everything, those pistons are extended, which powers this bit of dust here, which powers this timer, which moves. Obviously, when this dust is powered, it means the torch is unpowered, so everything in this hopper flows into this hopper, and it turns this on, which in effect turns the villager off. The villager will stay at the top until this is turned back off again. So when we reset the farm, these sticky pistons are retracted, which turns this dust off, but we need a bit of a delay. We can't have the villager starting off on the cycle within a minute of the doors being invalidated, because if he does, then the doors won't have all been invalidated, and he'll just start adding to the villagers again. So he has to wait for 60 seconds to invalidate all of these doors, which is why we need the delay there. Been a few days since I slept. Oh, I know they're going to come. I just know that actually, why am I running the gauntlet? Sensible. I don't do it often enough, being sensible. So that's why we've got the delay. And then after, I don't know, 60 seconds, it's probably a little bit longer than that, he starts coming down. Once he gets to the bottom, he goes over that detector rail, puts a pulse down through that piece of dust there, the one I'm looking at now, that one. Which, dear me. Which comes down here, over here. No, it doesn't. It comes up there. It comes down there, up here, and into this one tick pulse generator, which turns the torch off for one tick, which reduces the line by a power of 1, which turns on which turns on the torch. And the very first time that happens, it turns on the lamp. The very first time that happens, as I mentioned earlier, this torch comes on, which puts a pulse through this redstone line here. And notice that we've got a sticky piston here. That becomes very important later, but the power comes into that block and then out of that block, and it goes down. Can we go down there? Goes down here. Oh, I can't go across it. Anyway, it runs down this line there, and it actually turns on, or it fires that dispenser. Because the dispenser's off, it fires it on, the water comes out, it raises the villager up by 1 block, which validates all of these. I think I've already told you that, so I apologise. I think I'm repeating myself, but I was trying to talk you through it without it being finished earlier. So now we've got, on this side, right at the beginning, 1 line of doors here, and the villager that's now raised at 1. The doors are now valid, and the system is working. And a very, very similar thing happens on the other side. Villager comes around. Once he drops down to the bottom, he goes over the detector rail just there, which comes through here, which comes underneath there. It's down there. You just can't see it. You wouldn't believe it, would you? It's that line there anyway. Comes underneath there, up, out there, through the one-tick pulse generator, which puts a one-tick pulse into the subtraction circuit, which again reduces the power in that line, which opens these sticky pistons, validating the doors on this side. And he does that 30 times, goes around in a cycle 30 times. Now it's after the 30th cycle that I needed to put most of this gear in. If it wasn't for the fact that I've decided to put 60 stackable villagers in this farm, it was only 30, most of this redstone wouldn't need to be here. But because it's 60, we use the doors in effect twice. So on the first cycle, the bottom doors are validated, and the villager, I'm going to do it all on this side now, because it's very, very similar over the other side as well. So the villager there is down at the bottom at the moment, is in range of the bottom doors, is not in range of the top doors. And that's for the first 30 villagers. When the 30th village is created, which will be on this side, once the 30th village is created, that redstone torch will come on, and it'll put power into that redstone dust through those repeaters. I've had to use a lot of repeaters around here because obviously the dust can't, bleed over. We just can't have a redstone line there and a redstone line there, otherwise the dust is going to get all intermingled, which is why we have to use quite a few repeaters. It's either that or spread it out quite a long way to use dust, but I didn't want to do that. So 30th village created, torch comes on, line power goes through there, goes through that block, which is allowed to happen because at the moment that sticky piston is extended, so the power comes through there, down here, and it goes into the reset block. And you remember the reset block because that's the block that resets all of the villages, closes all of the pistons, which invalidates all of the doors. So after a bit of a delay, once the final village is created, it resets all of the doors, closes all of the sticky pistons, so the doors can no longer be valid. But because they are already valid, they'll stay validated until the chunk unloads. And it's very important, that is. It's the reason we can stack villages on top of each other for more than 30 villagers, and that's the reason for doing it, or being able to do it. And it's why the old switch for villager breeders no longer works, because if you cover the door in the past, the old versions, if you covered a valid door to invalidate it, after a minute it would invalidate. Now that doesn't happen. You have to wait until the chunk is unloaded. The only way to invalidate a village now is to remove the door or to drop the villager out of range, and then that will reset after 60 seconds. But I digress. So now we've got all of these pistons are now closed because power has gone into this reset block. Once it's gone into the block, it comes out of this block, goes down this line of repeaters, it goes into that torch there, which goes down a little torch tower, and I hope you guys are following me. I hope you've not turned off. Comes down that torch tower there, powers that torch, which puts a signal down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I think that's long enough. I think I'll be okay. Puts a signal down this line here, which activates that top dispenser. Okay, so the doors are closed. This villager can then rise up to the top, putting him in range of these doors. And that's why we have to close the pistons at the top before we raise this guy up. If all of those pistons at the top were open and this guy got raised up, he would create one massive village with all of those doors along the top, and it would break the farm. So we have to close the pistons at the top, invalidating the doors before we raise this guy up. So that guy gets raised up and he goes into that tripwire, which is the next part of the little circuit. Once he goes into that tripwire, a couple of things happen. A signal goes down this line here, and we'll go and have a look at that first. So it goes down there. Don't know if we're going to be able to see it. Goes down there, and it comes out here, and it powers that block, which turns off this torch, obviously, and then retracts that piston. So the next time the 30 villagers are loaded, the second 30 villagers are loaded, once it gets down to the end here, that torch becomes powered, that dust becomes powered, those two repeaters become powered, but the signal can't go any further because that block's been retracted. So it doesn't go down and reset the farm. Okay, and it's very important. We don't want it to keep going round and round and round. You know, once it's finished loading the 60 villages, we want it to stop, and that's what that piston does there. And it does that because the villager has his head in. Can't see it. Oh, my ankles. Villager has his head in that tripwire. While his head's in the tripwire, it puts a signal down here into that block there. Actually, it doesn't, and I'm not going to be able to show you. It puts a signal down. That's better. It puts a signal there into that torch, which turns that torch on, which raises this block, which stops the villager, or stops a bottom dispenser being activated. Yeah, stops the bottom dispenser being activated. Basically, it turns everything off, and it's really complicated. And I'm probably made a right pig's ear about showing you this or trying to explain it. It's just so darn complicated, but I love it. So anyway, it's all done now, and all I've got to do is now wait for quite a while, because of the way it's been designed, and I wanted to keep it as small as possible. As I mentioned before, this has got a really, I don't think there is a 60 village resettable iron farm that's got such a small footprint, but we can do that because of these towers. It doesn't go off into the distance and have minecarts everywhere. It's got such a small footprint, but it does mean that the reloading time takes a little bit longer, and each cycle takes just over 2.5 minutes. It might even be closer to 3 minutes. So to fully reset it takes about 2.5 hours. So it's not, you know, it's not quick, put it that way. But because we built this in the spawn chunk, we only have to do it once. And I've only reset it now because we ran out of storage. So I'm going to leave this running now. Hopefully wait until it gets to the end, and then we'll have another shufty, hopefully, and we'll see it flick over and close all of these pistons, raise up the villager, and then start the cycle again. So hopefully you're not too bored, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so we've got 29 villagers all lit up, all validated. He's coming down now. He's just there. You see the lights just go on. So he's validating those doors. He's on his way down. and once he gets to the bottom, he'll go over the detector rail as I mentioned. That final lamp will come on, which will validate the final row of 11 doors. This better work. Gonna make me look like an idiot if it doesn't. So that lamp will come on. The pulse, the signal will go around here. It should go slowly down these repeaters. There you go. And it's turned all of them off now. I'm hoping that that gave it enough time to validate the last door. If it didn't, then we're in trouble. But what it's also done, as I mentioned, it's now activated that dispenser and now raised him up, that villager, one of the key villagers up, which puts him in range of the top doors. And the villager now, in his minecart, will get to the top, go around again and start validating all of the top doors in the cycle. And that's how it works. Dead impressive, if I do say so myself. So I'm going to go away and just do a bit of checking now. Check the village.dat files just to make sure that they are being created and that village did have a chance to be created. If it didn't, I'm just going to have to stick a bit more delay on that line there. So it's no big deal really, but it'll be nice if it's worked. And the fact, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, the fact that they are in minecarts and or standing in water means that this works perfectly well on a Spigot server. Actually, what we're on now, the Alphacraft server, is a Spigot server. So it works perfectly well on Spigot because it's not affected by the delay caused when entities detect doors normally on Spigot. If a villager isn't in a minecart or a boat or in water, it could take him up to 30 seconds to detect a village, which is why a lot of these resettable iron farms broke on a Spigot server because the villagers just couldn't detect them quick enough. However, if you put them in water or in a boat or in a minecart, then it comes back down to within 6 seconds again. Basically, comes back down to vanilla or the vanilla setting, and they can validate doors that much quicker, which is how this works. So I'll be back in a second when I've just validated everything, and we'll hopefully see it raining golems. Brilliant. So it's been a couple of hours and now all of the villagers are back up and stacked. You might be able to see over the sides, the villager there is up at the top. All the lights are on, all the doors are valid. The villagers are loaded, 60 villagers are loaded. I've checked the files, they're all working fine. And what it means is we have now got golems raining out of the sky. Now, all the chests, I emptied all the chests at the bottom are now full again. So this thing produces an insane amount of iron, really more iron than we'll ever need on the server, which is fantastic. We just don't have to worry about it. I think I'm going to start building things out of iron now, just for the sake of it. So guys, there's plenty of iron knocking about. If you want it, come and get it. So I think it's time to call it a day for today then, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you have managed to get this far in this video, then kudos to you. This has been very Redstone intensive, and hopefully you haven't found it too boring. Because as I say, I find this kind of thing fascinating. So thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed the episode, please don't forget to leave it a like. And if you've really loved it, don't forget to subscribe for future videos. This is Frilioth, and I'm out of here.